I usually allocate about a pound of alginate per hand. Now, for kids' hands, you can get away with about a half a pound per hand. But remember that that's always going to be relative to the size of the container you're using to make the mold. Now, the mix ratio for alginate, most of our AccuCast formula alginates, I mix around 1:1 by volume. Now, I always like to have a little bit more water on hand because if I'm molding hands, I like it to be a little bit more runny than I typically like it for a face cast or a head cast or a body cast. Now, one of the crucial steps when you're mixing is you always want to put your alginate into your mixing bucket first and then pour your water on top of it. Now, you'll notice I'm not using all of that water. I deliberately have more water than I need, and that's just to have a little bit in reserve in case I need to thin it out a little bit. It's akin to jumping a rocket cycle across Snake River Canyon. Getting kids to cooperate in this stage is tricky. I've got my 3.5-year-old and my 10-year-old together for this one. And one of the nice things here is doing a group hand. Now, casts like this with multiple hands are tricky to demold. You don't want to have them just yank their hands out because that will rip the alginate. So we want to very carefully work their hands out, and they'll be able to tell by wiggling their fingers when it breaks that suction and allows them to slowly pull their hands out. Now, we didn't cover this earlier, but mold release on kids' hands is not a big deal, but if they have dry skin and you're worried about release, and once you've cleaned up your mold, you're ready for casting. And in this particular case, with cement and hydrostone mix without any special mixing equipment. And now ready to cast the hydrostone into our alginate mold. Cooking time of probably about 10 to 15 minutes, and then a demold time of about 2 hours. So I always like to very carefully break the suction on the rim of that bucket and just bounce it very gently a couple of